Hello, welcome to another IELTS essay writing video. In this video, we are focusing on adjectives, and particularly we're training ourselves to be able to choose appropriate adjectives to convey the ideas that we want to express in our writing. If you find this video helpful, please visit my blog at IELTS.com. So in this video, you will see 8 questions, and each question will present you with options for adjective use in a sentence. And what you need to do is choose the appropriate adjective to complete the sentence. So as an example, the infallible practice of bare bile farming needs to stop, or the inhumane practice, or the incongruent practice of bare bile farming needs to stop. And so in this example, the correct answer would be inhumane. So infallible is an adjective that means never failing. So that that's not what we would want to say here. The never failing practice, no, doesn't make sense. Incongruent is an adjective to describe something that doesn't match or is incompatible, you could say. So again, that doesn't really make any sense, so that would not be the right answer here. So the correct answer would be inhumane. Now let's get to the essay question. You will see 8 questions in this essay, just like the example we just went through. So the essay question reads, recent studies have shown that overweight people tend to eat junk foods that are high in unhealthy fats. Some people argue that an increase in the price of such foods will serve as a deterrent and thus reduce the number of overweight people. Okay, so increasing the price of foods based on their fat content really will reduce the number of overweight people. Do you agree or disagree? Share examples from your own life to support your point of view. Okay, so the essay question is pretty straightforward. This is going to be a straight argument essay with the one little catch that we're going to share examples from our own life. All right, let's get to the essay. There are 8 questions in total, like I mentioned, so please keep track of how many you get correct, and then you can just post that as a comment below. It is a well-known fact that the girth, hugeness, fattiness of people around the world, of people the world over, is increasing at an capital alarming presidential pace. This is one word here. Try to get that in one screen. It is a well-known fact that the girth, hugeness, fattiness of people the world over is increasing at a capital alarming presidential pace. Okay, now the first answer here is girth. That would be the correct answer. Hugeness, I guess technically would be grammatically correct, but it's not really an academic word. It's also kind of an awkward word. I mean, people don't typically use the word hugeness to describe anything. You'd say the size. So that's not the correct word here. And fattiness, again, probably grammatically correct, but not very academic sounding. So we would go with girth. Girth is just a word that refers to kind of the size of the midsection of a person. So we're saying this size is increasing at a capital or an alarming or precedential pace. And the correct answer here would be alarming. So a capital pace, not really, doesn't really make sense, kind of awkward. Precedential, so this comes from the word precedent, which is a word that is used to describe perhaps an earlier event that could be used as a guide for the future. So this, this is, I mean, the way that the girth of people around the world is growing, it's not something that has really been seen in history before. I mean, if you were to say an unprecedented pace, that would probably work. I'll just type it for you here. Unprecedented pace. So that's sort of the same as alarming. It's kind of a surprising or a pace that has never been seen before. But precedential would not be what we're looking for here. So alarming pace would be the correct answer there. Okay, among these suggestions on how to tackle this problem is the proposition that the price of junk food should be increased. Okay, so we're getting a little bit more towards the main topic of this essay. We start broad and we're getting more narrow here. Now, our thesis. It is felt that this is a plausible, possible, truthful deterrent to fast food consumption. Okay. So now, truthful is not the answer. A truthful deterrent, a factual deterrent, it doesn't really make sense. Now we get down to plausible and possible, which are two words that a lot of people, even native English speakers, they sometimes misuse. So what's the difference between the two? Well, plausible is something that is more likely, more fitting, or more probable. Possible is something that is, it's something that can be done. It's not really commenting on the likelihood, not in the same way that plausible is. So possible is a word that that would not be, that does not have the correct tone that we want to convey in a statement of position. So in your thesis, you have to state something strong, and you definitely want your examiner to be able to follow your line of thinking. So if we're calling this a possible deterrent, it's not really conveying the idea that we feel this is well, I can't think of another word other than plausible, a plausible way to tackle this problem. So possible would not be the correct answer here. This is not stating our position with strength. Okay? So a plausible deterrent to fast food consumption. So now when our examiner reads this, there's no confusion in their mind. They know exactly where we stand in relation to the essay question. Now we get to our outline sentence. Support for this opinion. Now please keep track of these words like this. Okay, these are all showing little bits of cohesion between the sentences. So support for this opinion will be shown by looking at how this solution would lead people to other ingestive, culinary, eating alternatives, and encourage them to eat fast food less frequently. Okay, so the sentence was, so support for this position will be shown by looking at how this would lead people to other ingestive, culinary, eating alternatives. And I know that this is underlined in red. Ingestive is a word. I'm not sure why my version of Microsoft Word doesn't recognize it. Okay, let's start with ingestive. So this is an adjective form of ingest, which means to, it's sort of the action of putting food into your mouth. So you could say he ingested a hamburger. Now, we're not talking about alternatives to the action of putting things in our mouth. That wouldn't make any sense. So that's not the right word. Other eating alternatives, again, this is a word that's not very academic sounding. So it's not really the tone or the way we want to present our writing skills to our examiner. It just sounds very juvenile. It sounds like a word that someone in grade 4 would use. So that's not what we want to do. So the correct word here would be culinary. So culinary is an adjective to describe things related to cooking. Okay, so other cooked foods, other cooking alternatives, and encourage them to eat fast food less frequently. So those are the two supporting points we're going to be looking at in the remainder of the essay. Okay, let's get to the first supporting paragraph. For one, increasing the price of fast food would push people towards healthier options. Okay. For example, when I was in university, now please remember that the essay question asked us specifically to share personal opinions. Otherwise, I would encourage you not to use personal pronouns when you can. So when I was in university, a vegan restaurant opened on campus that provided dishes free of charge in an effort to raise awareness of vegan food. If vegan is a new word, it's like being a vegetarian, only that you don't eat any products that come from animals at all, including things like milk and eggs. So you don't eat any animal products. You don't consume any animal products. Okay, as a college kid without much money, I found the price of these dishes very attractive and became a royal or virtual or loyal patron of this establishment. So I found the price of these dishes very attractive and became a royal, virtual, loyal patron of this establishment. Okay, now let me just quickly define patron in case that's a new word. Patron is a person that frequents a business, like a customer, and it would be a good customer, someone who regularly comes back. Okay, so I wouldn't be a royal patron, maybe in my dreams, but no. Virtual is a word that describes something that would exist as data, maybe not so much in a physical form, or something that almost exists, like virtual reality. So that would not be the right answer. I would be a loyal patron, someone who regularly comes back and willingly spends money at this establishment. So I became, I found the dishes very attractive and became a loyal patron of this establishment. Thus, as my experience shows, consumers are callous, sensitive, prone to price, and can be encouraged to eat healthier as a result. So thus, as my experience shows, consumers are callous, sensitive, prone to price, and can be encouraged to eat healthier as a result. Okay, now what are we trying to show in this sentence? We're trying to show that people are, I'm going to give the answer away. People are sensitive to price. And because they're sensitive to price, they can, to an extent, be controlled by price. So if you were to make the price of fast food higher, then the consumption of it would go down. So here we have callous. Now callous is the opposite of sensitive. So if you describe a person as callous, this is someone who it's difficult to communicate with them to a certain degree, or they don't show a lot of affection towards other people, they don't show a lot of sensitivity, they might even be a little bit cruel. So we wouldn't say that, if we said people are callous to price, this would mean that price doesn't really affect them. That's not what we're saying here. And prone to, now I was hoping to trick somebody because prone to is a phrase, well, prone and to are often used together. And prone means something that's more likely to happen. So for example, if I were to say, so his ancestry made him prone to alcoholism. So that means that because of his forefathers and his foremothers perhaps, he is more likely to become an alcoholic. So his ancestry made him or makes him prone to alcoholism. It just means sort of more likely to do something. It can be used in several ways, but it's often used to describe something maybe bad, like a sickness or an illness. So you could say she's prone to diabetes, something like that. Okay, so that would not be the right answer here. Consumers are sensitive to price and can be encouraged to eat healthier as a result. Okay, now let's go on to our second point. Our second point was that if you raise the price of fast food, people will consume it less. Basically, they will eat it, and they will frequent fast food restaurants less. In addition to this, raising the price of unhealthy food would likely encourage people to buy it less frequently. To illustrate, as a teenager, I had a succinct, brief, reduced stint working at McDonald's. To illustrate, as a teenager, I had a succinct, brief, reduced stint working at McDonald's. All right, so what does stint mean? Stint is it can be used to describe a short period. Often it's used when you're talking about work. So you could say, I had a stint as a magician, which would just be saying that, I worked very briefly as a magician. So, and again, I've given the answer away in my explanation. The correct answer would be brief. Succinct is more often used when we're talking about the way a person communicates. So we could say, for example, the lecturer was always succinct in his communication, which just means sort of very to the point and not using excessive sentences or phrases to describe topics. Concise would be a similar word to succinct. Reduced. I trust everybody knows what reduced means. Reduced wouldn't make sense here. A reduced stint, a shortened stint? No, that wouldn't make sense at all. So a brief stint working at McDonald's. Okay, during my employment, a month-long promotion was held making Big Mac hamburgers available at half price. As Big Macs are quite high in unhealthy fats, I was shocked to see people eating them, sometimes as many as 3 times a day. As this practice discontinued after the Big Mac prices returned to normal, my experience makes it clear that the frequency with which people eat fast food moves in correlation with cost. Okay, so this is a very key sentence here. In this sentence, we're showing the link between the frequency with which people eat fast food and um, and the price, really. So if one goes up, the other goes down. Okay, and an important thing is to learn how to use language to show links between things. Even the word link or the word correlation are very key things. You should have those in your memory when you go into the examination and know how to use them, because often you present an example and you draw a conclusion, but you've got to show the link between those two things. So just recently, this past week, I've been working with some students online and helping them with their writing. And something I've noticed is that a lot of students are having trouble, connecting their example to their conclusion. They know how to draw a conclusion, but they just don't know how to present that logic in their writing. So you can't really assume that the examiner is going to make that link for you. You've got to be able to really show them that you can express that in writing yourself. Thus, increasing the price of fast food is a practice that should be supported in an effort to curb obesity. Curb is a word I like a lot. You've probably seen it in other essays. So just to cut down, to reduce something. Okay. As the above shows, price could be a or an effective, probably torpid way to discourage fast food ingestion and weight gain. Okay, so first things first, probably is not an adjective, so you can take that one out. Torpid. Torpid is a word to describe an inactive state. So, for example, when animals, when they sleep through the winter, you could say that that they are when they're hibernating, they're in a torpid state, you could say. So torpid, are we talking about a torpid way, an inactive state? No, we're not. So that's not the right answer. Here we'd be talking about an effective way to discourage fast food ingestion and weight gain. It is hoped this idea is put into practice in all countries where obesity is a problem. Okay, and that concludes the essay. So I hope that essay was challenging. I know some people had commented that that the videos before this one were a little bit on the easy side. So I hope that provided a challenge for you, and please share the mark that you got out of 8, and send me some feedback. I'm always happy to hear from students and to receive some guidance from them, regarding what sort of things they like to see and what sort of things they'd appreciate I maybe stop making so often. So thank you very much. Have a nice evening, and good luck with your studies.